So Governor Andy Beshear out of Kentucky said it best when he said that JD Vance ain't from here. He ain't from Appalachia. He doesn't understand our people. He doesn't know the struggles that we face. But what he did know how to do was write a book called Hillbilly Elegy and blame us for all of our problems and exploit our people and make a lot of money off of it. And then he looked around, and when he saw the ultimate grifter grifting our people, after saying he would never be a Trump guy, he became a Trump guy because he can change his stripes quicker than anybody I've ever seen. And now he's fully on board with the grift and grifting even further. And he's one heartbeat away from being the next president. Now, I have no faith that Donald Trump's going to leave. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that he's building a ballroom with the intentions of leaving. But let's say that he does. And let's say in 2028 he rides off into the sunset. That means JD Vance theoretically would be the next in line to be the president. Although I could see Donald Trump throwing him a complete and total curveball and being like, nah, dude, I don't want it to be you. We'll let it be Don Jr. or some other schmuck. But I really don't think JD has a permanent spot at the table like he thinks he does. But he would be, folks. He would be next in line. And that's somebody that we have got to keep our eye on. And in 2028, we have got to make sure leaves D.C. for good. So I'm going to play you a clip here of Governor Andy Beshear because he's always on point and he understands where people like me's coming from when we talk about JD.
Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm going to let the Republican primary play out in the Republican primary. But if J.D. Vance is their candidate, we absolutely must win. This is a dangerous individual who is as condescending as any candidate and any vice president that we have ever had. He made his initial money off writing a book about my people, claiming that we are lazy and caused our own challenges. We did not. He does not know us, and this is someone who will manipulate and profit off the suffering of others.
And relatedly, there's also reports that Marjorie Taylor Greene might want to run for president. She's telling people privately that she wants to. What's your response?
Well, hey, I haven't agreed with Marjorie Taylor Greene on many things, but I want to give her, and you know what? I'll give Rand Paul and of all things, Thomas Massie, a little bit of credit. At least they're speaking up. They're not letting a president simply run over them. I'm not sure I agree with how they do their job, but at least they're trying to do it, and that sets them apart from their peers.
Yeah, J.D. Vance does not know us, and he's always profited off the suffering of Appalachian people, and as someone who was born and raised here, it's always been deeply offensive. And it's been even more offensive to see people fall for it and think that he has their best interest at heart when he clearly don't. But Governor Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania really came at J.D. Vance, and I'm going to play this next clip and we'll talk more about it because he is absolutely on point right here. Take a look.
And look, as for J.D. Vance, I mean, I got to say, look, I think America has a president, a vice president that don't give a damn about all Americans. They have made that crystal clear. And I mean, at least with Donald Trump, he's transparent about that. J.D. Vance is a total phony. And let me explain why. J.D. Vance rose to some prominence by writing a book about growing up in Appalachia, where there's a whole lot of people who get snapped. He made millions of dollars on the backs of telling their stories, and then he turned his damn back on those very people who he likes to write about and claim as his own. Here's another thing J.D. Vance claims. He claims to be a person of faith. I know my Bible. And my Bible teaches us that we are to love thy neighbor. That's right. And we are to feed the hungry. That's right. Deuteronomy says if you see a person who is in need, you don't give them a clenched fist, you open up your hand. So for J.D. Vance now to turn around after claiming all these things his whole life and literally go to court to stop hungry people from eating, that is not only phony, it is shameful. And this is who is leading America today. And folks got to wake up and realize the people who are leading in America quite literally want to keep people hungry. And you'll excuse me for getting emotional about it, but when I see hungry people in my state who are hungry because of J.D. Vance's bullshit politics, that makes me angry. And that's why I went to court. And that's why we're funding SHARE. And that's why we're putting dollars back on people's SNAP cards, because that's what the people of Pennsylvania deserve, and America deserves better than J.D. Vance.
You know, JD Vance can call himself a person of faith all day, but that never impresses me. I want to see actions. I want to see people follow the words in red, the teachings of Jesus. And if they do that and then call themselves a person of faith, I don't have a problem with it. But someone like JD Vance will call himself that, and again, he will profit off that and ride the coattail of it, but his actions doesn't match what he claims to be a faith. When someone says they believe in Jesus these days, I say to them, are you talking about the original Jesus or are you talking about the Republican Jesus? Because they're two completely different things. You do have real people of faith, and then you have Christian nationalism, which is basically the Republican brand of Christianity. They took the parts they wanted out of it. They used it to their advantage. They cherry pick out certain verses to beat people down that they don't like, and come up with legislation and put it in place to work against people. So that's what Christian nationalism is. I don't have a problem with people of faith, and I don't have a problem with people who believe in Jesus. And I've said many times here on the channel, I believe in Jesus more than they do, because those words in red do have meaning. They do have value. If you applied them to your life, you would be a better person. But that's just it. I don't see JD Vance, and I sure as hell don't see Donald Trump ever applying those teachings to their lives. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, well, Brando, did you ever read Hillbilly Elegy? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I read it twice. I read it back when it first came out, and I read it again when it was announced that he was going to be the running mate. I went back and dusted it off and read it one more time. So yeah, I actually do have a copy of Hillbilly Elegy of the things I'm saying of it and about it. I'm not just saying it because I don't like him, or I'm not just saying it because somebody told me what they read in it. I read it twice, and both times I pretty much came away feeling the same way, except the second go around I felt worse because I realized this guy was going to be, on the ticket, and if they won, he's going to be one heartbeat away from being president. But for those of you who aren't from Appalachia, and I like Josh Shapiro, I got nothing against the guy, but I do have to say, anytime someone says Appalachia, I can't even really hardly say that, and when I hear it, I kind of do a double take. It's Appalachia. Just picture an apple, and I'm going to throw an apple at you, and you got it. But anyway, if you're not from Appalachia, and you're trying to get an understanding of what we're talking about and why JD Vance offends people like me and Governor Beshear, then I would highly recommend, or if you've read Hillbilly Elegy, but you never really followed up on anything else, I would read this one here. I would read Appalachian Reckoning. This is a region response to Hillbilly Elegy. It was edited by Anthony Harkins and Meredith McCarroll. And I'll give you a little bit of an idea of what this is in case you want to get you a copy of it. But Appalachian Reckoning is a retort at terms rigorous, critical, angry, hopeful to the long shadow that Hillbilly Elegy has cast over the region and its imagining. But it also moves beyond Hillbilly Elegy to allow Appalachians from varied backgrounds to tell their own diverse and complex stories through an imaginative blend of scholarship, poetry, and photography. The essays and creative work collected in Appalachian Reckoning provide a deeply personal portrait of a place that is once culturally rich and economically distressed, unique and typically American. Complicating simplistic visions that associate the region almost exclusively with death and decay, Appalachian Reckoning makes clear Appalachia's intellectual vitality, spiritual richness, and progressive possibilities. So if you want to read about our part of the world, or if you, like I said, if you've read Hillbilly Elegy, it left a bad taste in your mouth, go read this one and listen to the Appalachians who responded to that train wreck of a book and that grift that he wrote. JD Vance has always been a grifter. He's someone who's never really knew who he was and just goes whichever way the wind's blowing. And so I do believe that one day he will try to jump ship. I see that day coming. He will try to step up and lead. And that's the day that we have to step up and make sure that he never gets near a desk and never has any power again. Because the thing about cults, folks, the cult leader, once the cult leader is gone, the cult never survives. We don't necessarily know who was second in command at Jonestown, and nobody cares. We don't know who was necessarily second in command in Waco under David Koresh, and nobody cares, because once the leader's gone, the cult pretty much fades away. And so once Donald Trump is out of the picture, I really do believe that the cult will just die of its own bad breath. And we're going to be here trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube like I'm always talking about. We're going to be here trying to go to bat and restore some decency. And I believe that we can. But we're never going to do that when you have a phony, condescending prick like JD Vance. To me, he's just one of the worst. I don't know that I would agree with Governor Shapiro that Donald Trump is transparent. I think what he meant by that, or the way that I took what he said there, was that Trump is just more blunt about it. He's just more obvious about it. And at least with that, I know I recognize where he stands. It's like, okay, I know you're over there. With JD, he's really good at manipulating. He's also good. I tell you, the one thing I realized when he was debating Tim Walz, right there is where I went, this guy has actually got a way of spinning bullshit to make it sound intelligent to stupid people. And so we really do have to just keep going to bat, folks, and let people know that he ain't from here. He don't represent us, and we sure as hell don't need him to be the next president of the United States. I'm a big fan of Andy Beshear, and anytime he's talking about JD Vance, I love listening, and I love listening to Governor Josh Shapiro as well, even if he does say Appalachia. So I want to thank y'all so much for supporting what it is that I do. We're headed toward 900,000 subscribers. We're almost to 1 million. We'll get there eventually, and I just appreciate you all helping me to build this platform. It means a whole lot to me. And there are people that questions me. There's people that's like, oh, now wait a minute. You got a bandana on and tattoos. Are you really from there, boy? Born and raised right here, and I will be for the rest of my life. Jason Isbell had a song called, we're down in the Cumberland Gap, and then I wrote an answer song to that one. But he said the Cumberland Gap will swallow you up, and it sure as hell has. I ain't going nowhere. But my ghost will walk the streets once it's over. And I'll be whispering in somebody's ear, JD Vance ain't from here. JD Vance ain't from here. So if you're ever in Cumberland Gap after I'm dead and gone and you just hear somebody's voice say, JD Vance ain't from here, no, that was the ghost of Brando.